Warren here, and you've joined us for the Our Millwall Fan Show with the Millwall No One Likes Us Talking team.
I'm Libby Stubbs.
And I'm Millie Connell. Why not sponsor one of our teammates just like they do?
To find out how, just email commercial@millwall-lionesses.com. I'll say that again, commercial@millwall-lionesses.com.
That is all you have to do, and it will help us to get back to where we belong.
Now enjoy our Millwall Fan Show from the No One Likes Us Talking team.
Hello and welcome to the No One Likes Us Talking podcast. Joining us today is Ted Robinson. Hello, Ted.
Evening, Gary.
Bethany Warren. Hi, Bethany.
Hiya, Gary.
And Jeff Burnage. How you doing, Jeff?
Hi, Gary. Hi, everyone.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Right, so firstly, I believe that's 3 out of 3, and I've not said that for a very long time. But we're going to concentrate on the last two. Bethany, you can start. QPR or Derby, you choose.
Ooh, let's go. It was the closest, so I'll remember it more. Let's go Derby.
Okay, away you go then.
Well, what can we say? Scoring really early on. It's really nice to see Jed Wallace back in the team fit and scoring for us as well, because obviously with everything that was going on with him potentially leaving us, it was looking slightly worrying. Nice to see him have some, the passion that he does have for the club, because we've seen players before that have thought about leaving and you can see their care for the game and for the fans go down, and you've just not seen that in Jed at all. So that was great. And Tyler Bury, again, one of our young ones, scoring his second goal in 2 games. It was a great game. Unfortunately, we got that own goal by Cooper, but we still won, so I'm not going to complain.
When you think about what Cooper did there, normally that ends up in Rosette, but on that one occasion, I'm not being funny, no one mentioned last night how bad that pitch was. I know George was there, but did anyone else notice how bad it was?
It was bad, wasn't it? I think everyone could see that. Obviously, we know the reason. They've just not been allowed to spend any money on it because of the administration and the problems they had going back before that. So, it was in a poor old state, and we're lucky that it hadn't been raining all day. So, it was poor.
I've got to be honest, Gary, I would love to have played on pitches in that state years ago, because by today's standards it wasn't great, I must admit. But the weather's been pretty rough the last few days, as we know, it was a decent enough pitch, wasn't it, to get out there and play on.
Yeah, but what were your thoughts on the QPR game, Ted?
Well, for me, Gal, I think that was our best performance of the season. I mean, QPR are a decent side, a very good side in actual fact, and they're proving that with their performances this season. And what I liked about it was we done the 2 aspects of the game that make you win games. We was very solid at the back. They didn't really trouble us. They didn't really give us any time that we was feeling like, that they're going to score here. We shut them out pretty well for a side that, Mark Warburton's teams are always good footballing teams. And he, to shut a side out like Mark Warburton's is a no mean feat. But apart from that,
Ted as well, just to think, the last couple of games we've played from been a bit of goal fest as well, haven't they? So
they're a good side. I think they will probably just about make the playoffs. QPR, I think they're good enough for it. But the better side for us, because it's where our problems have been all season, I thought we looked dangerous every time we come forward. I agree with Bethany about Jed coming back. He seems to be the spark that we've been lacking in going forward. If you take the QPR game, he's passed to Malone for the first goal, and the flick that he done for the Tyler Bury goal.
Yeah,
it's the sort of little bits of magic, if you like to call it, or a little bit of spark there. The whole forward play seems to have risen a level, if you know what I mean, in speed as well. So I like the look of the front three now with Tyler Bury, Mason Bennett, who I actually think is playing out of his skin at the moment, and with Jed in there, it gives us a lot of scope up front. And I just thought all round it was a perfect performance.
Also, Ted, and no disrespect to Bennett, the ball's sticking, if you know what I mean. The ball's not bouncing another 10-15 yards back in towards the midfield and making it hard. And no disrespect to Bennett, I like him, but when the ball's in front of him, he can beat anyone, but when he's trying to hold it up, he's not the best at that, and maybe that's why he's not playing a higher level.
I don't. Perhaps the way that we're playing may suit Bennett-ophobia a little bit better. But Mason Bennett is the man who can hold the ball up. He's for a guy of his size, he's very strong. You know what I mean? He can give any centre half, no matter how big they are, a physical time, if that makes sense. Yeah. Tyler Bury needs to learn that side of the game. Tyler is a bit like Bennett in the sense that he does like the ball to come onto. And unfortunately, it would have been lovely if he'd have got the better chance that he had, in a sense, in the game last night against Derby, the one he put over the bar. Because I think, not that he's lacking in confidence, but it would have helped him along and given him another boost. But the one thing I do like about Tyler Bury is he tends, when he gets the ball, he's very positive with it. You know, he either looks to take someone on, which again is something I think we've lacked a little bit of, you know. So all in all, it's been wonderful being a Millwall supporter, unless you went to Blackburn, obviously, over the last week or two. So long may it continue.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on either match?
Well, I go back a bit further. Fulham away, the result looks a lot worse than the performance actually was.
Yep.
Because we made some good chances in that game, and what Fulham have got is someone that takes most of the chances he gets. You know, Mitrovic, he didn't do a lot in the game, but he's got a tap in off the goalkeeper, and I can't remember the other one, but I thought we played okay there. That's our only defeat in the last 5. So I think people with a better memory than me will remember back in the autumn when, also due to injuries, we had to play a front two of Mason Bennett and Jed Wallace, I think, for a while, and because we weren't then playing up to someone with their back to goal, it looked better. And I think you're harsh on Bennett-ophobia. I think when he's been playing, we've tried to play into him facing his own goal, and it doesn't suit him. And I don't think we tried to do that with the front players we had out for the last couple of games. I think that explains the better attacking performances. But I prefer to talk about the QPR game. I thought we were absolutely blinding in that game. I mean, from first to last, we just wanted it so much. They're third in the league, and we made them look as if they didn't want it. I'm sure they did, but we just had too much for them.
Weren't they 5 games unbeaten at that point as well? Or maybe more.
I don't know, but they've lost again since, haven't they? So they are stuttering a little bit, but I agree with Ted. I think they'll finish in the playoffs. But in this division, and we all know it's an unbelievable division. It's just relentless, and you're never sure who's going to beat who, are you? You just are never sure. We're just typical, I think. We'll have days when we take our chances, days when we don't, like at Fulham. But I really enjoyed the QPR game. I thought we thoroughly deserved to win that, and I think QPR left with a tail between their legs, honestly.
And Cliftonville. Oh, sorry, Gal. I was just going to say, Cliftonville was outstanding in that QPR game. He to me is a perfect foil for Billy Mitchell, and I've heard a lot of people sort of moaning about Billy Mitchell in the last few games, but Billy Mitchell gets through a ton of work. I tell you, he is non-stop, the guy. He's
been better the last couple of games today, I admit that. I know I shouted about it a couple of games ago, but last couple he's been better. And I thought he matched with Savile well last night as well.
Yeah, I think you have to, with Billy Mitchell, being the young lad that he is, and really, let's face it, this is his first full season of being part of the team and whatever. His passing could be a little bit better at times, but his work rate is phenomenal, and he does such a good job for the team that, you know, I just don't want Millwall fans starting to get on his back because they believe his passing's negative and things like that. But I think he's been outstanding in the last few games, and he deserves praise as well.
I just think the role that he has in the side it's not glamorous. It's similar. What was the ginger fella that's at Birmingham now? Ryan Woods.
Ryan Woods.
Right? He plays the same role, and I think he's a better player. I think he gets about the pitch more than Ryan Woods did. Ryan Woods, yes, a lot of the stuff went through him, but yeah, you knew where he would be. Billy gets everywhere, and I think if people were criticising him 3 or 4 games ago, I think they're out of order. I think, okay, he might have slipped from an 8 to a 7.5 out of 10. That's all. I think he's doing great himself.
The defensive side of his game's very good, Jeff. Like you say, there was a couple of times last night that it was Billy Mitchell running out, blocking on the edge of the box, and that part of the game not a lot of people appreciate in the sense of how important it is to the team. And I just see Billy Mitchell is going to be, and hopefully he's with us for a long, long time, an outstanding footballer that I believe will be good enough to go into the Premier League one day. That's how highly I rate Billy Mitchell.
The way I can describe Billy is... Sorry, Jeff. The way I describe Billy... Do you remember Dave Livermore when he was in the midfield for us? Whenever he wasn't in the team, you noticed he wasn't in the team. And that's a weird thing to say, but because you didn't notice him when he was in the team, he'd done the job. But when he wasn't in the team, you really noticed he wasn't there. And I think that could be the same as Billy Mitchell.
Well, it shows you how divided fans can be, because the year that David Livermore won Player of the Year, half the crowd couldn't believe it. They all thought he was rubbish. And half the crowd voted him as Player of the Year. So I'm afraid that's what we've got. And the kind of players we've now got relish that. They're not cowed by the Millwall support, home or away. It can get very negative in the crowd, but our players seem to come through it okay, and that's going to be crucial, I think. So
I'll tell you, I liken him to a little bit, in my opinion, is James Milner. James Milner, I've heard some of my friends say, whenever he's been playing for the various sides he has, what does he bring to the team? Yeah, everywhere he goes, he's like the first name on the team sheet for the manager, because James Milner will be, like Jeff was just hinting there with Billy Mitchell, a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 player every game, guaranteed. His performance level doesn't go down to being awful, but it's there all the time, and that's how I see.
Could you imagine Milner coming down doing what? What's his name? The Arsenal player Merson did when he come and played for Portsmouth that time. He could probably do that for a club like Millwall, for example, going and giving a season to a lower league club, like a championship club, for one season before he retires, and going out on a swan song as being maybe getting them promoted or something like that. I think someone like Milner could do that. But what I wanted to say, if Jed does go, what did everyone think of Ablisi last night? I know he went off injured, but do you think he was headless chicken, or do you think he was actually really, really good? He was the right winger.
He was a bit of a thorn in our side for a little while. He was giving Scott Malone a little bit of a thing. I mean, he's only a young lad, isn't he? What is he, 18, 19, I think?
Yeah. Would he be a replacement for Jed, maybe?
I'm not sure I see anything more in Ablisi than I would see in Ojo. I think if... I've said it all along, I think if we could get that boy fit and actually believe in himself, and that what I believe will come through games, I think you'd have a little gem on your hands. But listen, it's a big thing to ask anybody at that sort of age to step into someone like Jed Wallace's shoes. I mean, what people tend to do when someone like Jed Wallace moves on from a club is, as soon as somebody comes in, they try to compare them, which is unfair on the player coming in, because Jed Wallace will always be Jed Wallace of Millwall, you know what I'm saying? And whoever comes in shouldn't be sort of judged against him. I know he will, but they shouldn't be. They should be allowed to be their own player and do what they can do, if you know what I mean. And I think that's the best thing to do with any team, is to let a player develop. And Jed is obviously, as he's proving in these games, to be a massive asset to the side. I mean, he's going to be extremely difficult to replace, but we will do. We'll find someone to replace him.
We will.
It's replacing your best players when they leave that is absolutely critical. It is, and but I haven't totally given up hope on Jed yet. But the problem
maybe you know more than we do, Jeff.
I don't, but you mentioned Ojo, Ted, but I mean, can you just imagine the money he's on at Liverpool?
Yeah.
Can you just even imagine it? So, if he wants the same money, there's zero chance of him being with us next season. Zero.
Oh yeah, that's. I don't get me wrong when I say this, Jeff. That is an obvious statement to make. We all know if you come down, we have anybody from a Premiership side, whether it's Liverpool or not. You know, we know they're going to be on vast amounts of money, more than we can pay them. But you know, where's he been for the last 4 or 5 years, OG? He's been floating around in the Championship. You know, there must be a time,
he's at the end
I
of his
would
contract
say.
now anyway. He's at the end of his contract at the end of the season.
There's got to be a time, Gary. Why do these footballers play football? Because they love playing. So there must become a time, like, regardless of the money that they've made, if there's nothing else on offer and Liverpool not giving him, I don't doubt if we don't go in for him, there'll be plenty of other Championship sides that'll be looking at him. You know, so if we want to be in a Championship and be in a Championship side that's challenging for the automatic places, that we should be looking at guys like OG to see if we can beat off opposition. I just hope in these situations, Jeff, and you probably know this better than me, you just got to hope that the guys actually fall in love with Millwall and what goes on down here, and are prepared to take maybe a pay cut or whatever to get regular first team football.
That's where our supporters can play a part. Indeed. One of the biggest factors on whether Ojo's with us next season or not is if he loves the rest of this season. If he loves playing for us, if he gets a bit of love from the crowd,
a few games in,
and gets a bit of love from the crowd, it's very decisive. In my experience, that has proved to be very decisive when players have got a choice of where to go.
Right. Well, at that point, I'll describe what the rest of the show is going to be like. So, in the first part of today's shows, we will be discussing the postponement at Blackburn. And then it's the return of Alex. That's Alex Aldridge's return as head of recruitment. And then we will be discussing the Romans, the Lionesses, and of course the first team. But before we get started, let's listen to our colleagues over at the Proper Blokes Club.
Hello, I'm Scott and I founded the Proper Blokes Club. What is that I hear say? Well, it's for men who have experienced or going through a tough time and fancy going for a walk and a talk. Or it could be you just want to get back on top of your game, maybe feeling lonely, or you could even be new to the area and just want to get out for a walk and a talk. This could be for you. So if you'd like to join us, we run sessions every Thursday, Sunday, starting at HMS Belfast, walking along the Thames up towards Surrey Quays. Thursday start time is 6 o'clock and Sunday start time is 6:30. If you guys are on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, find the Proper Blokes Club, give it a like, give it a follow, tag and share with your friends, or if you'd like to do it the old fashioned way, you can call Scott on 07397 501110. That's 07397 501110, and we can make arrangements for you to come along. So I look forward to seeing you joining us soon at the Proper Blokes Club.
I'm Gary Staff and I'm back with the No One Likes Us talking team of Ted Robinson, Bethany Warren and Jeff Burnage. So we'll move on to the discussion part of the show. First off, we'll hear from Kai Bennett talking about the postponement at Blackburn.
It's Kai reporting on, no game that happened at Blackburn Rovers versus Millwall. Today, game was called off after second pitch inspection. First pitch inspection happened at around midday. Referee deemed the surface safe to play on, and it looked like all systems go. People got on the pitch, clearing it away. Millwall, there was Millwall staff members helping clearing it away, doing a great job. And for some reason, the Blackburn side of the Blackburn half wasn't clearing as quick as Millwall's, which obviously you can't speculate on, but. The game was, at 2:15. The referee then called the game off. postponed it. Said that it was unsafe for the players to play on. And yeah, there was no fixture this afternoon at Ewood Park. A real shame because obviously Millwall, not just because of the 2 wins on the spin, but the fans have gone up. In fact, the fans, 471 fans, I think it was, have made the effort to go up there, and they deserve at the very least to see a football match take place. And I feel really, really sorry for them. But yeah, the rearranged game will be paid. The coach will be paid for by Millwall. Blackburn did offer some sausage rolls and food after the game to sort of say sorry to the Millwall fans, but is that enough? I don't personally think so. Yeah, as I said, I feel sorry for the Millwall fans that went up there and obviously haven't seen any football. Feel really sorry for them. But yeah, we're back in action on Wednesday night, I believe, against Derby County, and I'll be back reporting on that. Hopefully, we have a game this time.
Thanks, Kai. I'm going to make a very short statement on this. I thought it was very convenient how it all come about, especially when Preston down the road got their game on. So I'll hand over to whoever wants to go in first. I'll go with you, Jeff, first on this one. What was your thoughts?
I don't think we have to dwell on this too long. I think it's obvious that Blackburn were very, very happy that game was called off. Whatever they might have said at the time or since, most clubs would do the same in the situation they were in. The shame was that it was a long, long away trip for the away fans, which happened to be Millwall on this occasion, and there wasn't much priority given to what was right for them, was there? But I've got one thing to say. I was told, I think it was on the commentary, that the referee had said that there was one part of the pitch that if it had rained, it would have become unplayable. Well, if. Maybe it didn't, maybe it wouldn't. But the thing that's really annoyed me about that game was that on the football show on the Sunday on Sky, Stephen Warnock, or perhaps it was I think it was on the football show, may have been on EFL, but football show I think, he said that it was bad and it had got worse and it got worse towards the time of the postponement. I'm told that's not true. He also said that he felt it was very genuine that game was called off because Blackburn would have wanted to play. So there you are. I'm afraid that shows a bit of bias. He did play for them after all, and I don't suppose he's ever really thought much about Millwall. So that annoyed me that his mindset was not what our mindset was. It's obvious to me why that game never took place.
Well, I'll say one thing, Jeff, on your point you made at the start about the players, or they've been ill, their injuries. How many have we got at the moment? 8 or 9? The same?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, what's good for the goose, you know what I mean? But anyway, Ted, what was your thoughts?
Well, I was going to be a gentleman and let Bethany go first.
Okay, we'll let Bethany first. Go on then, Bethany.
Okay,
No, I've changed my mind, Bethany. Sorry. Sorry, go on.
Blackburn were never playing that game. No matter what they say, I 100% believe they were never playing that game. And I know it's always something that we go on about at Millwall, and we kind of make light of it. There's this conspiracy against us, and no one likes us, and that's we're famous for saying that. The proof's in the pudding. It happened this Saturday. And I know they're saying it was 471 fans that travelled up. That's just ones that bought tickets then. Like, you don't know who'd bought tickets to be in the Blackburn end, because we know people do that. I think it's disgusting. I think it's fantastic that Millwall are going to fund the coach up there. And I think it's very telling that Steve Kavanagh's statement came out and he was not happy, because I always find when we've had issues with the press or things at Millwall, I find that the higher ups at the club can sometimes try and to their right be quite impartial and try to stay back, but he didn't hold back in his statement, and to me that says everything. If Steve Kavanagh is saying this isn't acceptable, I think it's disgusting. All those people travel that way, and don't worry, have a sausage roll for your troubles. A sausage roll? No thanks. What?
Well, that's a sausage roll they couldn't. It's a sausage roll they couldn't then sell through their catering outlet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous. We can't sell now because we're closed. Have a sausage roll. We've just spent all this time. No, go away. Sorry. I think it's. I'm not happy.
The irony is, though, Bethany, and I've got two things to say before Ted comes on. Is I don't think Brereton or whatever his name is will actually be fit on the 8th of March when the replay is. So that's quite ironic. And have we played to the EFL like Nottingham Forest have done, or have we not got a leg to stand on because of recent times in arguments like that? It's a thought, isn't it? Because I know Forest have complained about their Bournemouth game being off, but what about ours? Would we complain?
Well, let's leave Ted to finish off, but can I just say that I was trying to think of the other thing that Stephen Warnock said. He said the reason would have possibly been it had been snowing, so it might have been dangerous outside the ground for spectators because it's going downhill to the stadium.
No.
But they were already in there, Stephen Warnock. They're already in there. So his mindset is obvious. But look, to be fair, Bethany, I don't think this was an anti-Millwall thing by Blackburn. It was just them looking after their own interests. And to tell you the truth, a lot of clubs would be the same. Probably all clubs would do the same.
I'd love to believe it's not anti-Millwall, but I'm very I of all the years that my dad unfortunately put me through supporting this club, I can't.
Oh, you're one of us, Bethany.
The fact of the matter, the football EFL are going to say it's the referee's decision and the referees alone. So there's no point in complaining because no point whatsoever. You then got to prove the referee got bribed to call the game off. So joke. No, I'm afraid just got to lump it.
Let's join them two together, Jeff. Let's think about it. There you are, 12:15, a pitch covered in snow. Blackburn, I think groundsmen and people like that thinking, he's coming in at 12:15, we're going to have a pitch inspection. We've got no hope of this game going on. Along comes a referee, quite naively, in a sense, I suppose, and says, it looks like it's fine to play. All of a sudden, it's, sugar. We've got to try and get this game on. Now, the effort that Blackburn, this is where Blackburn are at fault, the effort that they put in to get that pitch ready for the actual next inspection, which was at 2:15, was nothing short of shameful. They never bothered. They didn't want the game on. But the referee, and this is where questions obviously have to be asked, why did the referee change his mind from 12:15 to 2:15? Because from what I can gather, the weather was better then than it was before 12:15. So what changed his mind to say that this pitch isn't now playable when they had 2 hours to prepare it for a game? And that's when you have to question Blackburn and what they put into it. I believe even some of our people were helping out on the
Max
pitch.
McKenna was on the pitch, wasn't he?
Exactly. So, questions have to be asked because it is a responsibility, in my opinion, that they should have tried everything they could to get that game on for the sake of the fans that travelled all the way up there through Storm Eunice and everything else to get themselves up there to see a game of football, like Kai said. I personally don't believe that Blackburn Football Club put 100% effort into trying to get that game on. The other thing is I'd like to know why the referee changed his mind from 12:15 to 2:15 when, in my opinion, there didn't seem to be anything happening. Listen, if a deluge comes down at 2:15 and it's an absolute downpour and you've got no time to have a preparation of the pitch or anything like that, and the ball gets stuck in the pitch and it won't go, and they have to call it off at 2:30, I'll be the first one to say, well, it's understandable. You can understand because it's just happened so quickly, they haven't had the time to do anything. They had 2 hours to clear a pitch. And then in them 2 hours, for some reason or another, from whatever the referee looked at when it was covered in snow, to clearing the bits and pieces that they did, it changed the referee's mind.
Ted, I heard...
It stinks, and Blackburn should be held account for what they didn't do in that time to try and get that game on.
Ted, I heard their excuse was, one of the groundsmen forgot to turn the understore heating on. Is that
Well,
the
that's
squad they've got?
we all know that's ridiculous, Gal, and they should be ashamed of themselves and embarrassed by trying to use that as an excuse. Every football club, let's face it, I knew that Storm Eunice was coming in on the Tuesday of that week. You know what I'm saying? The weather reports or the weather predictions are there for everyone to see. You know when and where. I could have told you that up north was going to get some snow and whatever. So how can he forget the biggest thing that is in his sort of job title, which is to look after the pitch, and he forgot to switch the heating on? That's ridiculous. If I forgot to put the heating on in my house when it's freezing cold, my missus would kill me. Blackburn didn't do it, and it is disgraceful because lots of people made a lot of effort to get themselves to that game, and the people at that ground didn't put the effort in to put it on for them, which is disgraceful.
Brilliant. Right, at that point, we will move on to quickly talk about Alexis Aldridge's return. What do we all think? Good, bad? Just a quick point on that before we move on to our special guest this evening. Bethany, you can go first on this one.
I'll be totally honest. Don't really have an opinion.
That's fine. That's fine.
You're a Millwall fan, Bethany. You must have an opinion.
At the end of the day, something has to happen with recruitment, because the recruitment that's been going on for a little while in the club has been, in my opinion, quite poor. I don't think there's been enough. Oh, it turns out I do have an opinion. Here we go. I don't think that we have had any significant signings for. I know there's been COVID and everything. You've got to take that into account. But I don't think we've had anything that significant in the past couple of seasons. I feel like, for me, the last significant signing we really made was Jed Wallace, back however long ago he joined us. So, someone coming back, are they going to mix it up a little bit? Maybe, hopefully. We'll see.
What do you think, Ted?
Well, it's a strange one to me, Gal, because I'm never really happy about. I was going to say this, but I hope Alex proves me wrong. I'm never really happy about someone who leaves, then all of a sudden decides to come back, if you know what I mean. Because he left on his own accord, as far as I know. And I don't know the reasons behind Alex leaving or what it was in the first place, but he chose to move. Now all of a sudden, he's coming back when we already had someone in place. And I don't get it, but I do sort of understand that this is where he cut his teeth and he'd be happy at Millwall. He knows Millwall, and perhaps there is still that affinity to Millwall. But, sometimes I think you're better moving on. Because I'm not sure what Alex achieved when he was here before.
Ted, here's a thought. With this happening, does it make you think maybe that's why we are going backwards not going back to a guy who did bring in some very good players for us, if you look at the players he brought in, because nothing got over the line, and maybe the current
there was
off with the reasons.
Yeah, there was frustrations in January, obviously, now, and obviously we got a big summer coming up because there's quite a few players that it looks like are going to be leaving the club. So, and it appears that the policy direction has changed in the sense that it appeared that we was trying to get younger players in, like the Louis Sibley things, and so maybe they see Alex, or Alex feels he's the man that can do the job that Millwall require. And we all know that if you're going to be building a new team in the summer, or new squad in the summer, it takes from now until then to get things in place that hopefully will come off. So listen, nobody wants Alex, like Bethany said, it'd be lovely to see 2, 3, 4 players that come on board that we can say, well done, Alex, they're brilliant, they're absolute stars that have turned out for us, and hopefully, by the nature of the fact he's come back now, that must be his project, I assume, is to get there in the summer and recruit. And hopefully he does the job that we want him to do.
Jeff, do you agree?
I'm not really sure what's happened. I mean, Alex was involved in the club, I think, on a part-time basis for a while a very, very young man. And then at the age of 24, he was appointed to head of recruitment. But I'm long gone now from the board, and I don't quite know who does what. But recruitment is not the function of an individual. It is a collective decision in most clubs. I would just say this: I wish Alex very, very much success, because all the best Millwall teams in my time have come about because there was an excellent spell of recruitment. An excellent spell. Go back to the team that nearly got in the First Division in 1972. That was spectacular recruitment. Weller, Posse, Burnett, King, all in one summer with no failures, right? And then the team that got into the First Division in 1986. You can all think of who that was. You know, the Ifields and the Stephen Reeds. And
well, that's the Bob Pearson era, wasn't it? Is it Bob Pearson?
It was, indeed. And so, in my opinion, the next great Millwall side will come about because of great recruitment. So, I'm putting a bit of pressure on Alex here, but that's what I'm looking for. It won't just be him. The head of recruitment's job these days is normally to identify who there is, who could be available. We've got their sources all over Europe, certainly in this country. But usually the manager will have an opinion, possibly even the last word. And that's only right, in my opinion. But one thing I would say is I hope Alex is going to go back to looking at divisions below ours. I think in recent times we've tended to sign players from the Championship who aren't quite good enough to get in their existing Championship side. You know, Benikofobi, Burke, Mason Bennett, Ryan Woods,
Luke Freeman. None of them are in the side, in their Championship side. So unless we think we're cleverer than everybody else, that doesn't seem to me, in general, to be the way to go. Some of those have proved to be very successful and borne out someone's judgment. But when we last had a very, very good side, if I name you Neil Harris, Steve Morrison, Lee Gregory, all of those were signed from non-league.
Yep.
Not other Championship clubs, from non-league. And I believe that the way that you really progress is to sign players that are too good for their existing level and are desperate to prove themselves at a higher level.
That is a key, Jeff. The hunger that is in a player.
Alex does that. That's what I'm hoping. Alex does that.
As I say, Jeff, I think that's a key thing, that them players have hunger and desire. The Neil Harrises, the Steve Morrisons, Lee Gregory, all came along with a hunger and desire to prove themselves to be, better than they've been playing. You know, whereas you get some of these people like you're talking about that come from another side, and that, as you say, they're still in the Championship. They just, for want of a better way, mentally they stroll, in my opinion. Whereas you get someone like Steve Morrison or Neil Harris when they come in, or Lee Gregory, you could see their desire to to prove to everyone and anyone watching them they're a better player than the standard they've been playing in. And I think that makes an ideal Millwall player as well, someone who's got that desire.
And their wages will be affordable.
Exactly.
If you sign players from other Championship clubs, you're paying Championship wages. In some cases, teams that have come down from the Premier League. That isn't the case if you sign players from lower. Listen, it's not easy. It's not an easy task to know who's good enough to go up to the Championship. It isn't easy. But that's, in my opinion, that's what I would hope Alex is planning to do. Go and see who there is in League One, League Two, National League, and hopefully get the judgments right.
Well, on that note, we're going to
say we signed Ben Thompson, Gal.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to hand over to speak to someone shortly who might have an opinion on that, because they've been listening in the background. But first up, we'll listen to Harvey Brown and the Lions Food Hub.
First of all, let's hear from Harvey Brown.
Have you heard of the Lions Food Hub? It is now located in the Millwall Community Trust car park. That's beside Millwall's Den in Ballina Road. That Millwall Lioness, Kelly Webster, is involved. Don't forget to help the Lions Food Hub if you can. Thank you.
As Harvey said, they need support, and you can help if you can by making a one-off or a regular monetary donation online at Banquet, that is BANKUET. Or on a Saturday, you should make donations pre-match at the Hub, about 50 metres down from the Lions store. Alternatively, you can also contact the team via their Twitter and Facebook sites.
I'm Gary Staff, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us talking team of Ted Robinson, Bethany Warren and Jeff Burnage. Now we move on to the part of the show where we talk to a face associated with the Lions. This week we're talking to the voice of the Lions. He travels up and down the country supplying the commentary on iFollow with his co-commentator Max. It's none other than the voice of the Lions, Karl Bates. Welcome to the show, Karl.
Good evening all, how are we?
We're very well. We're very well. Before I pass you over to the team, how did you come to be part of the Millwall commentary setup, Karl?
How? Oh, yeah. That's a story I'd imagine a few people know, but I'm more than happy to repeat myself. Very, very quickly from the beginning, started on hospital radio, did bits and bobs there, worked my way up, just doing local radio, then got into football commentary because I sent all my stuff off to BBC. BBC thankfully had the right place, right time, saw my CV, wanted me to come in and just read out the full-time scores on telly. Did so, didn't fluff it up, and that gave me a great CV to put forwards when there was a job for a football commentator. Went along to Underhill, covered Barnet as a co-commentator, and then the guy that did the main commentary moved on. I moved into his spot on the payroll and covered Barnet for a number of years. Went to then worked for BBC London covering some Premier League games left, right and centre. Then was doing bits and bobs, and then Dino, as we all know and love, finally stood down after his 700 years service at Millwall. And Billy Taylor got hold of us and said I'd been recommended by Pete Stevens, who was the head of BBC London at the time. I had a quick chat with Bill, and yeah, that was that really. And I've been here ever since. I think it's about 4 or 5 years now.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's the very quick abbreviated version.
Go on then, Ted. I'll let you start off.
Right, Karl.
Yeah.
Karl. I've heard the long version, by the way. Yeah, that's a better one.
Not my fault. Takes a while.
Yeah, a night in Middlesbrough. You know what I mean? It was going on and on. But anyway, you was at Blackburn, Karl. We've had our say, and I think you heard it. I mean, it just appears. It appears to me that not enough effort was made to get that game on. What did you actually see, Karl, going on?
Yeah, I mean, just, try not to put any bias on it whatsoever. I mean, myself and I'm sure you know Tonksy, the club photographer, we got to the ground just after 12. To be fair, the car park we were going to pull into was frozen solid and it was on a slight hill. So to have let us in there, it would have just been dancing on ice. The cars would have probably banged into each other. You'd have gone flying. So that was a definite no-go. The car
was you in Tonksy's car, mate?
Yeah, Tonksy.
Oh, it wouldn't have mattered if it hit anything then, so you could have parked there.
Well, no. Well, the good thing would have been we'd have got a great picture as evidence. So so we found another car park, went into the ground, probably about 12:15, walked down the tunnel out onto the pitch, and they had just started, or they'd only started probably 5-10 minutes beforehand, trying to shovel the snow off the pitch. It was probably about an inch deep. I mean, we're not, there wasn't like just a light smattering. It was quite deep, but it had stopped snowing. There's probably maybe 12, 15 people on the pitch, in no structured order. I'd say they're almost, right, I'm going to start here. And then what I did find surprising was that, for example, Max got involved later, but I'll come to that. But when Max was there, he sort of shovels the snow up, picks it up, walks to the side and dumps it down. While there seemed to be the premise, and I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but of putting the shovel on the floor and sort of pushing, if you sort of swap the shovel around and then using the back of it to move the snow across, which of course you're then sort of pushing some of it into the ground and also just leaving sort of a bit of a sludgy line either side. Both managers came out as a guess. It would have been maybe 20-1, 1/4 to 1. I remember hearing Gary quite loudly saying to Tony Mowbray saying, God, you can't be that scared of us, can you? But to be fair to Tony, that could have been said totally tongue-in-cheek, and Tony, because he's got he talks quite a grumbly sort of, and was quite a far distance away. He may well have answered back, going, yeah, good one, mate, come on, let's get, he may genuinely have been trying to get this game on. I'm not going to say either way what happened, but we were there, and I really wish I'd have took some pictures, actually, between, say, 1:15 to 1:30 to 1:15 to 2:30 when the game was called off, because I don't feel that much had changed. Obviously it had, but not a huge amount, hence why me and Max were just deciding what can we do here, what can we do. And so I had to go on BBC London, give them an update in about 10-15 minutes. So I said, right, I'm going to run outside, tell the fans, because the fans were completely in the dark outside, so I'm going to run out there and let them know what's going on. Max went out on the pitch and started shoveling snow off. I went round to the away end because, as far as I'm aware, they were just locked out. I don't know what they knew, and probably heard snippets on social media. So I had a chat with them, just explaining what I'd seen, basically what I've explained to yourselves. And then I was on BBC London doing the update. Adam Barrett and Gary come out onto the pitch and started kicking the ball around, sort of throwing it in the air, showing that they felt the game was fine to continue. And the referee then came out and had about a 10-15 minute walk around with his assistants and decided at, I think it was around 2:15, once there was quite a few fans in the ground, decided then to call the game off. I think, and don't put this down as the Holy Grail, this is exactly what was said. I believe the reason being that he was worried that if there was any sort of rain or snow, it would waterlog the pitch. And observe the word if in that, because I don't believe the game should be called off on an if. But as I say, that may not have been the full picture at all. And I know that Preston and Bolton managed to get their pitches uncovered in time so they could carry on, and they're not too far away. But that could be to do with drainage. I've no idea. But that's what I saw. Take your own, opinions from that.
Good evening, Karl. Jeff Burnage here.
Hello, Jeff.
You were very, very measured there in what you said. I don't know if you heard our discussion earlier.
I caught the tail end of it, Jeff.
Yeah. I think the worst part of it was how far the away team, in this case Millwall, had to travel. Mm-hmm. I don't think the referee had any care about that at all. Nor did Blackburn, I don't think, have any care about that at all. But as for getting the game called off, I don't think Gary's tongue was in his cheek. I think Blackburn didn't want that game on. I think their body language probably showed that to you. There's the issue of the undersaw heating, which allegedly the groundsman forgot to turn on. But most clubs in the EFL would have done the same thing as Blackburn. We really don't want this game on. So I think it's just the fact that we've travelled so far. What I did say earlier that you might have caught was that Stephen Warnock's comments on the Sunday morning, was it the Monday morning on the football show, totally misguided. He claimed that there was danger outside the ground and they didn't want to let the fans in. They were already in. He said the conditions worsened after 1:30 up to the postponement. That was wrong. So I think people were entitled to be, shall I say, fed up, and I've cleaned that up quite a bit.
I totally understand that. And as irony would have it, or whatever, the sun was out by the time me and Brian had left Blackburn. We were having to put the visors down in the car because we were getting blinded by the sun when we were driving home, which made it more frustrating and give us an extra half an hour grumbles on the way back south. But yeah, I mean, I cannot see why, considering how far the fans had travelled, anybody could see, even if they delayed the game half an hour, I cannot see why, given another hour, if you imagine that at 2:15 was when the game was called off, if he gives it another hour till 3:15, so another hour of people actually getting the snow off the pitch, and there wasn't much left, to be honest with you, there wasn't much left at all when he called the game off, that another hour, I think, would have been more than fine. So, no, it was really disappointing, and especially to leave it that long. I don't understand what changed in that time. If there'd have been heavy snow or rain, or the clouds were all coming over and they'd heard there was going to be snow and rain coming in, then absolutely call it off. But to go, the game's okay at midday, to 2:15, calling the game off was, I think, really, really frustrating because, as you mentioned, we're myself, Brian, media team, etc. We're in a very lucky position in the fact that we were still paid for our troubles. There was a hell of a lot of Millwall fans that paid a lot of money, risked a lot. The weather wasn't great going up, far from it, and they unfortunately were just left at 2:15 with the message, "Sorry, the game's off. Head home." So really, really frustrating day all round.
With regards to Jed Wallace, what do you think he's going to do? Do you think that we're going to get an extra couple of seasons out of him, or do you think this is his last hurrah for us for now?
Oh, you're going to love the politician's answer coming your way. I haven't got a straight bat in my hand to play the shot, but no, I don't know Jed well enough in that regard. Jed's such a nice guy. Whenever I see him, he's always laughing and joking. He'll always come shake hand. "Hi, Karl, how are you?" He was messing about yesterday. He nicked Brian Tonks. Can you believe this? He nicked Brian Tonks' camera pre-match to take some pictures of the players out on the pitch. Now, Tonksy had already got this lined up with his camera, was just about to take a picture. Jed goes, "Oh, can't Tonksy, let me have a go." So then he picks up the camera, lines up the shot that Tonksy's already done, and still messed it up. It was completely blurred, totally useless. He's got probably the most expensive camera he'll ever hold and made a complete pig's ear of it, despite the fact Tonksy set it up perfectly. Anyway, I digress. In regards to Jed, I don't know. The one thing I would say is that I don't think he owes the club anything. I think he puts in a hell of a shift. Since I've watched Millwall, as I say, as in, week out, over 4 or 5 years, he's been top of the shop every season, assist-wise, effort-wise. I don't think we can ever say he's not one of those players that say, and I know, honest to God, do not know, but say he wanted to leave in January, say he was hoping to get a move to X, Y, and Z. He still is not the type of player that would, throw his toys out of his pram and just strut around all the time, or moan or complain, go into the press claiming this, that, and the other, or not put in a full effort. We saw last night, he runs his socks off for the team, scored a goal. And so, all I can say is if he does decide to move, I wish him well. I can't argue with what he's done with the club. It would be fantastic, and I really, really hope he stays, but I wouldn't hold it against him or class him as a traitor or, I can't believe he's done this, that, and the other. He's done really well for the Lions. So it'll be interesting to find out. Also,
agreed.
If he does leave, where's he going to go? It'll be interesting to see where his level is, because as a free agent, obviously that gives him a great opportunity if he decides to move on. So it'll be interesting.
Having heard the Tonksy story there, Karl, thankfully Tonksy didn't decide to do one back on Jed and try and take his place at kick-off time, if you know what I mean, going out. Thankfully, he spared us from that.
Well, Tonksy's not the biggest player either.
No. What I was going to say, mate, since Jed's come back, or the last 3 games, let's talk about them. We've been pretty exceptional in them games. I thought the QPR, I don't know if you heard it earlier, we was talking about QPR, and I thought that was our best game of the season. What do you reckon on our chances of maintaining this form? I think a little bit maybe that Gary's not got so much choice at the moment. It's a straightforward choice for him to a certain extent. Is possibly helping the side at the moment. What we don't need is any more injuries, obviously. But do you think there's a chance that we can continue with this sort of form to the end of the season?
Well, there's definitely a chance. As you mentioned earlier on, the 2 results at home. Cardiff was a really hard-fought victory, second half, as we so often see Millwall improve. And against QPR, the Lions were outstanding. I agree, actually. I think I mentioned at the time that's the best performance I've seen from Millwall. QPR just didn't have a split second to breathe during the whole match. It'd have been a travesty if Millwall hadn't have won the game. If anything, maybe 2-0 did QPR a favour. I don't know. Maybe the score should have been more flattering for Millwall. And I think last night as well, was sort of, underrated in the fact that a lot of people give Gary stick for maybe not putting out an attacking side. Everybody loves to hang up on this back 3. Millwall are playing 5 at the back. If you look at granted, Derby only played with a 4, but nearly every side we play has a back 3. And I do think it's a bit unfair sometimes, in inverted commas, that Gary gets labelled, it's so boring, it's so negative with 5 at the back. But if you watch, I'd probably guess 80 to 90% of the teams we face do the same. But I thought last night against Derby, considering Derby were desperate to win, pretty much had to win. They had a great crowd in there last night. I don't know if you went or listened to the game, watched it on Sky Red Button, or listened to me and Max. But there was a really good atmosphere in there. It was an intense atmosphere, and Millwall held them at arm's length, apart from the one chance thing for Ebersaly in the first half, and then Cooper's unfortunate 9-iron with a couple of minutes to go. They didn't fart. Bart had literally nothing to do. And considering how desperate Derby were, Derby had to get something out of the game. I thought I thought the high press really worked. I thought Sav and Billy were excellent in midfield. Hutch kept coming forward, pinching the ball off the strikers. The creativity up top of Jed and Tyler, Mason, such a physical presence. I thought we were outstanding. And I just think Derby ran out of ideas quite quickly and just thought, this isn't our day. So, no, I thought last night was a very impressive performance.
Excellent.
But there's no reason, though, why it can't continue. I mean, at the Den, we've got a very good record. I know Forest won, that man, once again, Lewis Graven scoring against Millwall in stoppage time. But no, I think there's every reason to be, I don't know, hopeful, confident, whichever way you want to put it. But as I think, I can't remember which one of you alluded to, I think it might have been you, Ted, about injuries. You know, it's incredible the amount of injuries Millwall have had. And I think, again, it's credit to Gary that Millwall are sitting in the top half. You think about all of the injuries. Every time a Millwall player started to play well, Ballard, injured. Leonard, injured. Afobe, injured. Bradshaw, was it 6-6, injured. You know, Jed, injured. So every time there's a key component to the Millwall side injured at some point. You know, even Kieftenbeld, you know, he's been out of the side. He comes in, he has two or three really, really good games, and that's him out as well. So, for Millwall with such a small squad to be where they are, I think it's credit, well, not just to Gary, the whole side. I think they've done really, really well.
It is amazing, the injury situation. Even I'll worry about pulling my hamstring going down there to watch them now, because it seems to be catching. Everyone seems to do their hamstringing as soon as they start playing well.
Ted, you made an excellent point earlier about the injuries, and that's just come up again now. But one thing I think that, and you also made the point about having a much reduced size of squad, kind of forcing Gary's hand. I think one thing that's gone unnoticed about last night is that a couple of months ago, the substitution of Tyler Bury would have been for a midfield player and left just two up to just defend the 2-0 lead. And he put on a boy of 16 to play the last 5 minutes plus stoppage time, rather than bringing on, for example, George Evans. I thought that was extremely positive, and I'm really pleased that we got the result on the end of that. Otherwise, there'd have been criticism there again, I think.
Just a thought, and I know you heard the end of it as well, Karl. What are your thoughts on Alex Aldridge coming back? Did you know him from any time before?
No, I didn't know Alex at all in regards the work that he does. I know we're talking in the recruitment side of things. I did hear at the end when you guys were talking about, are Millwall doing enough in the transfer market? When was the last time we got a big player in, or should we be looking in? I think it sounds disrespectful, the lower leagues, but leagues 1 and 2. It's a tough one, because let's look at it another way. If, say, for example, they think, right, we've got this diamond in the rough, we're going to get this player from League One, I think he's the man to go to, he's going to change the team. The first thing every Millwall fan is going to think straight off the bat is going to be, what are we getting a League One player for? What are we doing this for? Until this guy's proved himself, if this person comes into 7 or 8 good games, think, good move. While I think if you're given more time, if you're a bigger name, and so it's really tough. And I think also behind the scenes, it's not as simple. Say for example, I know we were linked a lot with Louis Sibley, for example. I've no idea how close that got, how far away that was. But if you imagine from a Millwall point of view, we're not a club that can go in and say, right, name your price, we'll have him. Boom, there you go, job done. Right, he signs, we'll see him tomorrow for his medical. I think for Millwall, they've got to look at probably a player going out, then they've got to get a player coming in. If they're taking a player, that means they've got to make sure that player's replaced by the club beforehand. So you've now got 3 people involved very quickly. You've got the player from Millwall that's probably going to have to leave, the player that's coming in to Millwall, and the person that left to come to Millwall is going to have to be replaced by the club that he's left. And so you put all those 3 in place, and already you're trying to work out, to in and fro in. And I think that's why sometimes transfers are left right up until the last minute, because that's just, say, Millwall's involvement in for example, Sibley, when there could be other clubs doing exactly the same, and they're trying to get through their deals quicker. They're like, right, we can get rid of him for X amount, excellent. That means we can afford him. Oh yeah, but then we'll have to do this. And you're working all of these things out at such a pace. And Millwall, like I said, they can't come in like a Bournemouth who went absolutely bonkers on transfer deadline day. Millwall have never got that firepower financially, and so you've got to box clever. And so it's a thankless task. And I think if Millwall, I think people mentioned about the likes of Neil Harris, Gregory, people coming in with that desire to succeed and getting a good start, because it's so often the case your first 6 or 7 games can make you at a club, especially at Millwall. We've seen Tyler's had a great start, 2 games, 2 goals, as in 2, and he's banging form now. If he'd have come on, had a couple of great chances, unfortunately missed them, his confidence would be low, and Gary would be thinking, maybe I just need to take him to one side, just ease him back into it, put him again on as a sub a couple of times, bring somebody else in. So yeah, it's a really tough call when it comes to transfers, because there must be so much going on behind the scenes that we don't see. We're just desperate to see the incoming tweet or the incoming gossip. Personally, I know I've probably gone on a while, but what I would love to see is the scrapping of the transfer window. I found it nothing more exciting than just sort of twaddling along in the day and suddenly bang, so we've bought whoever. But now with this transfer deadline, I feel that players go for far too much money that they're not worth, and clubs can then hold others to ransom. That's personally me anyway. I'm not a fan of transfer deadline day. I would much rather you can just buy who you like during the season.
I think Jeff's thing there, Karl, and you mentioned Tyler Bury, that is a perfect example, because we got him from Wimbledon, and we've sort of brought him on, should we say, over the last year or two. My mind still says the same thing, although he's been a diamond for us in the last couple of games. I still think he would have benefited, if I'm honest, playing at Hartlepool like he did at the start of the season. I sort of expected Tyler Bury to do that for the whole season, then come back and be part of our squad next season. So he's been thrown in a little bit earlier than that, but you can see the potential the guy's got, and that I think is where our transfer destination should be. An 18-year-old at a Wimbledon or a side lower down that's got potential, looks like could be the article, get him down at Millwall, bring him on like that. I think that's the sort of policy that we'd all like to see.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's as I think I mentioned earlier on, it's a great idea. Find some Tylers, if you know what I mean. Then that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Get 2 or 3 Tyler Burys in, and we're classed as transfer geniuses. The problem is if you get 2 or 3 players that just can't cut it and are just not good enough, people are going to say, why are you wasting your money in Leagues 1 and 2? We should be using that money of 3 players that couldn't cut it to get that one player that's proven championship quality that we know can cut it. So, it's hard. Finding a Tyler's fantastic. That's really, really good. And I think the lad's got a really bright future. But it's a calculated risk. I think you probably need to end up somewhere in the middle, don't you? Looking for a Tyler. Also, looking for somebody a bit further up the ladder, whether they be coming towards the end of their career or going the other way. Just very quickly, Bethany, you mentioned earlier about probably being the best big name signing or whatever that came in, being Jed, about this success story. I think we're forgetting somebody that came in with a dodgy knee that just about managed to pass a medical. I think Bart's been an outstanding signing, and Neil was desperate to get him in, and I think he's been just brilliant.
You're spot on. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're 100% right.
No, absolutely fine. I mean, he sort of, in a way, just went under the radar even when he signed. But, his consistency, ironically, injury-free, touch wood, etc., we came in.
There's the kiss of death. Oh, no.
Oh, what you just done.
I forgot to tell you can't play this episode out till 2030. Right. I can't remember. I said it something to Bart earlier on about something like that, and he said, "You dare say that again?"
Dear. Right, Karl, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love talking to you. We're going to get you on again as you're a big part of this show. But before the weekend, coming up at the weekend, obviously we've got the Blades of Sheffield United, who ironically last night beat Blackburn 1-0. What's your thoughts?
It's a tough. I mean, Sheffield United, a bit like Millwall, but although they're a bit closer to the top, are still looking at playoffs. The good thing about the game will be, well, at the minute, most games have got something riding on it now. Sheffield United, they bring a good travelling support. I'd expect them to sell out the away end. I think it'll be a good atmosphere. I like Sheffield United as a club. I enjoy going to Bramall Lane. I think it's a really good atmosphere. I think they've got a lot of similarities to Millwall in regards to their fan base. I like going there to scream when Jake Cooper scores 93rd minute winners. But my vocal cords are still recovering from that one. It's I think it'll be a really good competitive match. I expect probably some bookings, maybe a red card. I think both teams, don't mess about when they play each other. And I'm hopeful. I think we've got a really good record at home at the minute. And let's hope for a Millwall win. And who knows? Tyler wins third.
3-3.
Who knows?
Brilliant, Karl. Thank you for coming on the show. Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Karl. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karl. That was brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Karl. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. I really enjoyed it.
Cheers, Karl.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Pleasure. We'll now listen to Bethany again, talking about Sands United.
We know that some men can struggle to talk about how they're feeling after the death of a baby. We hope that by building trust and a common bond, by playing together as a team, many more will be able to break their silence about baby loss and help others to do the same. Sands United FC has already saved the lives of men left feeling like they had no one to turn to in their grief. Are you a father who has lost a child? Talk to Sands United. They will help. Contact them on sufclondon@gmail.com. That's sufclondon@gmail.com. They will help.
I'm Gary Staff, and I'm back with another Access Talking team of Ted Robinson, Bethany Warren and Jeff Burnage. Next up, we are speaking the Lionesses. Jeff, you've been following the Lionesses home and away. How have they been getting on lately?
It's been a really interesting season, Gary. I think everyone knows I've always had a great deal of interest in women's sport, women's football. I loved it when Millwall were in the very, very vanguard of the development of women's and girls football, and it's sad that we're not there at the moment. But after a poor start to the season, when we had to change manager, we brought in Jack Wheeler, who's experienced women's team manager, ably assisted by Millwall fan and young coach Alex Russell, and they've done a brilliant job, and it's now a good news story, and I just think Millwall fans should get along there and watch the team play. They play at St Paul's Sports Ground in Rotherhithe on Salter Road, same place that Fisher play. It's free to go in. Everybody else in our division charges, but because of our arrangement with Southwark Council, it's free to go into those games. And I'll go about last week's game against Worthing, who were the form team in the division, the London and South East Regional League, one short of the National League, that is. They signed some players from the Championship over Christmas, and they're much improved, had 3 or 4 great results. We went 2-0 down and 3-1 down and ended up drawing 3-3. But the real story is that 3 or 4 games ago, a more experienced team representing Millwall had a real hiccup and lost the game to Whiteleaf, who are one of the weaker teams in the division. And since then, we've played Charlton, their development squad. We've played New London Lionesses. That's no relation to us. We won 5-0 against them. We lost to them 4-0 earlier at the very start of the season. And then we drew with Worthing, 2-0 down, 3-1 down, and equalised. And it was a cracking game. The thing is that Jack and Alex have decided to go with youth. We've still got a really good reputation for developing girls into football, and the front two were both 16 against Worthing. Cadence Kabadaki scored a blinding equaliser in the 85th minute, a cracking goal, and the atmosphere there was brilliant. About 150 people in the ground, and you wouldn't see a bigger celebration from the team than that goal. It was a great goal that Cadence got. The other girl playing with her, it's called, it's gone for the minute. Hold on, cut that. It is, Frances Kerr. She's just turned 16 the other week. She's a very good, promising player. And then the sub we brought on to play on the right side of midfield, she's 16. And the reserve goalkeeper, who's challenging hard for the spot, is also 16. So Jack has really gone for youth, and you're going to get some inconsistency with that. But oh my God, it's really well worth seeing now. And with that, I'd just like to tell you what the forthcoming games were, if that's okay. There's not one this week. We should be playing in the League Cup, but our opponents, Fulham, who are a really, really good side, they had their game cancelled last week due to weather, and that's been put back to this week. So our next game at home is against Dulwich Hamlet on the 13th of March. That's a fortnight on Sunday at St Paul's Sports Ground, 2 o'clock kickoff. Then the following week we're at home again against Saltdean, one of the lesser sides. Dulwich Hamlet, very good side, but Saltdean a bit less. So that's on the 20th of March, and I can't recommend it enough. The girls really responded to that big crowd on Sunday, and Millwall fans will be playing a big part in the revival of Millwall Lionesses if they could just get along in their numbers and give them some vocal support.
Brilliant. Jeff, in the programme on the 8th of March against Middlesbrough, there's a section about the International Women's Day. What's that all about? Well,
the Middlesbrough game, to be pedantic, Gary, is the 12th of March. It's the nearest home game to International Women's Day, which is on the 8th of March. Ironically, we've now got a game on the 8th of March. It's the rearranged Blackburn game, isn't it? I think.
This is true. This is true, yes.
That's away. So, yeah, the programme for the Middlesbrough game will say something. I think Millwall Football Club are just beginning to wake up to the fact that there is a very good news story brewing in Millwall Lionesses, and I'm hoping that we'll find out a bit more about the Lionesses' progress through the club's own outlets, website, programme, etc., etc. It is a really good news story that's coming along, and I think the fact that we're focusing on youngsters coming in, it's been a difficult job for Jack and Alex. They've had to stay loyal to the players that got them promoted the previous season, although that was influenced largely by COVID. It was decided on your form over the last 2 years. They had to do that. They've had to bring in some new players. They have done, some more experienced players, but they've also promoted from our very successful young teams. The under-16s are brilliant, and to see them playing in the first team is quite something. That's very young, even for women's football. So I'm hoping that the piece in the programme against Middlesbrough will focus on that. I don't know what's going in the programme, but the media team have been down to training last week and the match on Sunday. If they got some good photographs of that goal going in for the equaliser, there are some on the Lionesses outlets, and I love the way the whole team absolutely buried Cadence with delight after. It was a brilliant goal and a great end to the game. So that's what I'm expecting on the 12th of March. This week, of course, is Jimmy's Day, the Jimmy Mizzen Day. That's worth mentioning, I think, as well. So we've got 2 very important Millwall occasions coming up for our home games. The Jimmy Mizzen Day is a very, very important one for all Millwall fans, for reasons that I don't need to explain. And then the following home game, the International Women's Day, and I would like to think that's when some of our fans will wake up to the fact that in Rotherhithe every Sunday there's a Millwall team playing that is well worth supporting. Hope so.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jeff. But before we move on to the first team, let's hear Paul Lodin talking about the Mill Romans and the Pride as well. Hello, Paul. What have the Romans and Pride been up to lately? And what's coming up as you return to league action in March?
Hi Gary, I hope everyone's safe and well. Yes, so we've had a bit of a quiet month this month. We've had a couple of sort of training sessions and friendlies, but nothing really to report on. Our next game back is going to be a week on Sunday. We're playing Phoenix at the infamous Hackney Marshes. In our first game of the second part of the season. So the teams have been split into upper and lower league, and obviously we're in the upper league. We play Phoenix at Hackney Marshes a week on Sunday.
What about the UK and Ireland GFSN Cup semi-final?
The semi-final has been confirmed for the 19th. It's at the Trinity Sports Centre in Manchester. We're heading up there on the Saturday morning of the 19th. It's a 2:00 kick-off. Manchester are a very good team. They're going to come out strong. It's going to be a real battle of a game, and we're just trying to get as much practice in beforehand to hopefully reach that final again.
Can we have a prediction for our match against the Blades at the Den this Saturday?
The game this weekend it's not going to be an easy one, I say, but I still think Millwall are going to take it. I'm going to go 1-0 Millwall.
We'll take that all day long. Thanks, Paul. Chat again next time. Take care. Thanks again, Paul. So, we move on to the first team now, and as I was chatting to Paul about there, next up is Sheffield United. We normally have our Stato Henry doing some bits in this point, but he's off on holiday this week. So I'll hand straight over to Ted to speak about Sheffield United at home.
That's a poor show, Henry. Dear. Excuses, holidays. I don't know. Sheffield United are one of the form sides, without a doubt. They're making a very strong push for the playoffs, so this is not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. Karl mentioned about Jake Cooper in scoring a 93rd minute winner against them before. I'd settle for that on Saturday because I think it's going to be that sort of game. They've got lots of, the usual people come to mind, like Billy Sharp, who's going to be dangerous for them. But they seem to have. They had a very dodgy start of the season, didn't they, Sheffield United? I think they couldn't win nothing at the start of the season. And all of a sudden, it's all seemed to have come right for them. And I must admit, I was amazed when they was playing so poorly. And I'm not surprised that they're the side that we see at the moment. But listen, if the Millwall that played against QPR turns up, we could beat anybody in this division. We all know that anyway. It's the sort of games that we as Millwall fans love, a side that's above us and going well. As Karl mentioned, I'll be amazed if they don't sell out their end, which will make it for the atmosphere. And in actual fact, their next three home games is Sheffield United, Middlesbrough and Huddersfield, I believe, which is, all sides that are pushing for them playoffs. So that's what gives me optimism as a Millwall fan, because the playoffs are still in sight. And if we can beat them sort of teams at home, it's only going to make it even closer for us. So let's hope we get the sort of performance we put in against QPR, and we take the game to the Blades and show them what real promotion playoff teams look like.
Bethany, what's your thoughts?
I'm feeling pretty positive about Sheffield United. I feel like it's something Millwall do. It's we always say it, the second half of our season is always the stronger one. So I think they're on such a good form now. We could do what some people call the typical Millwall style and go on such a good run that we end up having a really poor showing. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we are back at home, and we are, everyone's in such a positive place. It's still mathematically possible for us to get to the playoffs, and that's something that I think all the fans are very aware of. So I think as long as we become the 13th, 12th man, 13th man as a crowd, I think we can only go up. I'm hoping for a win. I think I've got Jed Wallace to score first. I hope. A nice 2-0 win, I think, will do us nicely.
Lovely job. And Jeff?
Sheffield United appear to be one of the best teams in the division. They're on a great run. They're likely to be in the playoffs or very close, but so are QPR. And I would say this: if we get the QPR performance on Saturday against Sheffield United, we'll win that game. Anything less, and we might not, because Sheffield United are a very decent side. So if you're wanting a forecast, I think we will reproduce that performance we had against QPR. We are still crippled by injuries. Let's not forget how many players would probably be in the side who are injured at the moment. So that's a downside. But the real plus is that there's likely to be the most positive atmosphere at the Den from the home support that there's been for quite a while. QPR was brilliant, I know, but we have had some rather downbeat responses from the crowd during the middle couple of months of the season, and that shouldn't be the case after 3 wins on the trot. So I think that sways me. I think Millwall to win.
I've got to say, Gary, just before we go on, I mean, Jeff makes a point about injuries. There was 1 or 2 of them that looked like they may have had a knock the other night. I just hope that the side that started against Derby is the side we can put out on the pitch on Saturday, because any more injuries and we really are down to the bare bones. Look, I love to see the young lad Lovelace come on at the end of that game against Derby, but to expect a young boy like that to go out against someone like Sheffield United from the word go, which is a possibility if we pick up any more injuries, it's a big ask. So we know how good that team is that started against Derby. They've proved it. They've proved that in the 2 games, with the QPR game. I know Tyler came on, but let's hope we can get that 11 out there at the start of this game on Saturday. And I'm like Bethany is and Jeff, by the sounds of it, positive that we can get the right result.
I agree too. We've already had a 2-0 off of Bethany. Jeff, quickly, score prediction.
You put me on the spot there, Gary. I said I think we'll win if we repeat the QPR performance. So why don't we repeat the QPR score? 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0 as well. I'm going to tell you a stat in a minute, which I got told this morning. Ted, before I quote my stat.
Well, I think we'll score twice, but Billy Sharp's playing with him and he's bound to score, so it'll be 2-1.
Okay. And that was my stat, because literally 5 out of the 6 games last night, and if I go to the Tuesday as well, there was 8 out of the 11 or 12 games that I played in the Championship over the last 2 days finished 2-1. So that's I'm just looking at them now on the Sky thing. Unbelievable. So literally that's the score of the week. So I'll take it as well. I'll go 2-1 as well. I don't like us conceding, but at the moment we seem to be quite a lot. So, right. So last week we mentioned on the show that Brian King still not very well. Brian has this week undergone surgery, and a sample was taken for a biopsy. Brian remains very positive, and I'm sure all his family do too. And we will learn much more in mid-March. Get well soon, Brian, and all your friends here at the No One Likes Us Talking team wish you better very soon.
Hear, hear.
Yes, hear.
Very worrying news. He's a great guy, a great Millwall hero.
He is indeed. Also, as Jeff mentioned earlier, it's Jimmy's Day coming up soon on Saturday. It's always a poignant day for the club, so get down there and show your support and give what you can to Jimmy's Day. Don't forget, you'll be able to listen to the No One Likes Us Talking team bring reports from our games both home and away, where our roving reporter Kai Bennett will be giving updates on the Millwall community matters, also on Maritime Radio, broadcasting on 96.5 FM. That's it from me. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, all the best to everybody listening, and we'll see you all Saturday.
Thanks, Ted.
Cheers, Gary, and come on, you Lions.
And thanks, Bethany.
Thanks, Gary. Have a lovely week, everyone, and let's hope we get that win on Saturday.
Indeed. See you all Saturday, guys. Finally, it's good night from me, and it's good night from them.